Okay, good morning, everybody. Pak Alwar, I'm so sorry because
Good morning,
my
boys.
speaker was muted. I just realized that it is not open.
Hello.
Hello, good morning, Prof.
Morning. Can you hear me now? Hello.
Hello, yeah?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay, it's okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. Sorry, that's there's some problems of my computers. Yeah. So now it's okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Okay, please. So I will open the session first.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Very good
wabarakatuh.
morning, everybody. Yeah. Yeah, this is very bright and sunny morning today in Yogyakarta. Sorry, I will fix my microphone first. So sorry because now I'm in the office and there are so many webinars in the same time. So okay, this morning we will continue our agenda, which is the agenda from the Magister Program of Chemistry, Universitas, the series, webinar series on academic writing. And this morning we will continue our agenda for facilitating the student, lecturers, and the participant in this meeting in improving their manuscript or academic papers. And in the first meeting last time, we have had the enrichment of the perspective of good research for publication. And last week, we have some suggestion for the manuscript for students. And in this session, this morning, we will have a special series, special issue, which is the things to be prepared for a manuscript before submission. Okay, so it is very lucky because Prof. Rui Andong, our visiting professor from National Tsinghua University, is very expert because his age index you can check in the Scopus database. His age index is more than 47, I think, or maybe more. Yeah, and more than, I think actually there is maybe more than 1,000 papers because not all document is in a Scopus indexed. So it is a very capable mentor for us. So it is lucky, and thank you very much, Prof, once again. Also, thank you very much for Mr. Alwar as the head of the study program for facilitating this agenda. Also the committee, Dr. Maisari, Mbak Ika, Pak Habibi, and the team. Yeah, thank you very much once again. So, okay, for not wasting time, so please, Prof. Rui Andong, give your lecture to us. Yeah, times and screen are yours.
Okay, thank you, Chair Fatima. Thank you for your nice introduction. So now I would like us to share the screen. So now that you can see my slide, right? Okay, yeah. So now
yes.
like Chair Fatima mentioned is today I would like to talk about the things to prepare before submitting a manuscript to the international journal. Theoretically, people would like us to think that when you prepare the good manuscript and names, you can submit this to journal. But from our experience is that to submit or to select the journal and name submit is not so difficult. But the most important is that you need to prepare a quite nice manuscript. Names that you can select any related journals to submit. So today I would like us to tell you is how to choose a proper journal for you. Second is how to write attractive manuscript. Even those we mentioned is that during the first seminar, but I think I need to emphasize this part again because this is the main part. If you have the quite nice manuscripts, quality, contribution, and their niche is very clear names, and that will be very easy for you to submit and to the journal. And it is also quite easy to be accepted. Names, they also request how to make an effective cover letters and then how to select the potential reviewer and how to make a good graphics abstracts. Definitely, I will introduce some of rules for them. But here you can see that's why we want to do the publication. That is the case. If you talk about the research names from the SS and energy data, they said that a research actually they have three pillars. One is for measurements, and the other is for data analysis. The one is the dissemination. Actually, dissemination is one kind of the case that now we are doing. We need us to do good advertise that to tell people that how good of our research. So this is the case we can publish this to journal. So now again, I would like us to tell you that the paper we need us to focus on for major parts, introduction, experimental, even those that you guys know, but you still need to know what is their niche. For case experimental, we have to do the what did you do, and the reference is the suppose for you. Result is what did you find. So this is very important because they talk about the most important contribution. Discussion is also very important because you need to do that how your result advanced, and the most key word is the advance here. Names the introduction is the most difficult part. I mentioned why needs to do this research. That means that your motivation needs to be very clear. Okay, yeah. So before writing and submitting the manuscript, you need to know several things. One is that you need to know your major contribution and possible niche. Sometimes the people just believe that the data you get is something like the course experimental result. It's something like a lab work. It's a research. Research means that you need to let your data more meaningful. So they always be a major contribution for your research. So try to figure out. It's not just that, oh, I do experimental A and I got the data B, names we got the experimental C and got the data D, so that we have the data B and D, and that's it. So you need to tell people what is the meaning of B and what is the meaning of D. What is the interrelationship between B and D, and what is the possible application of the B and D in the fields of chemistry. It is the most important case we would like us to emphasize in journal. So it's not just only for data. Data is quite easy, and data is very easy to be replaced, but contribution will be theirs always. Okay, so that is the case. And before you submit the manuscript, you need to find the aims and scopes of the journal. Okay, so you need to read the guide for authors very carefully, especially for the new researchers. It is very important. Okay, journal selection actually is that I have the several thumb rules. Okay, so one case is that I tries to find a journal that the aims and scopes is most fittest to your contribution and need. Okay, by the way, here we are not talking about the result. That means that your data, you need to select the journal according to your contribution and niche. Okay, so you need to know that the main contribution is one of the most important I mentioned. Okay, and we'll also bit emphasize again and again. Names that the journal selection, you also needs to consider the international reputation, ranking, and the importance in your area. Some journal will be very important in the other fields. For example, analytical chemistry will be very important for analytical chemistry fields. For example, you want to analyze the ingredients that's in herbs and some others. That will be very important. But analytical chemistry is not so important in physical chem. Yeah, so that is the case. You need to know. Select the case, the journal that is important in your area, and also consider those journal you read or cite most frequently. For example, you quite often to read the journals of the, for example, like Journal of Physical Chemical C, names why not publish your papers to JPPC. So that is the case here. So guide for author, when you read, especially for new researchers, you need to read especially the introduction part of the description. So that's for everyone. They always will mention the scopes and aims here. So that's this one is the applied catalysis B. I mentioned before. So for applied catalysis B, they focus on the relationship between the catalysis and environment. But we still have quite several similar journals that can accept the catalysis and environment. For example, Chemical Engineering Journal. This one actually is the ranks the top ones in the environmental engineering. This is the top 2, but they all talk about the catalysis and environment. So for Chemical Engineering journals, they also receive some paper related to catalysis and environment, but they mainly focus on from the chemical engineering point of view to talk about the relationships of catalysis and environment. So if you do not have the more applicable data that can be applied to the real environment using the chemical engineering technique, then it is not suitable to publish here. We still can have the several journals that talk about the photolysis. For example, Journal of the Photochemicals and Photobiology A, Chemistry. So it accepts that all the papers related to those chemical phenomena induced by light, no matter X-ray, UV light, visible light, and some others, that they all can be included. So that is the case. If you talk about the photochemistry, then you can consider about a case. So you need to know which one is the most popular you would like. Okay, yeah. So it is not the fixed one. Okay, we only have the thumb rule. Sometimes you get the data A, data B, data C, and the other person also got the data A prime, B prime, C prime. So that's you don't think that's the names of when they publish the paper in journal A, and then you also can publish in journal A. That's because the writings of the manuscripts will be very different. So that's the contribution and the niche will be also very different. So according to your contribution and niche, emphasize again, you need to select the good journal and suitable journal for you. Okay, so that is the case. So going back to the first topics, how to select the journal. The journal actually depends on the writing and contribution of your data. And names, we need to tell you again about how to write the manuscript. Actually, this is the very important, even though in some journal, especially in ACS journal, they all focus on this part. So that's I would like us to spend some more time to tell you how to write the good manuscripts here. So that's we mentioned previously. Okay, writing the sequence because it is also very important. Experimental first, a name, result, and discussion, a name, conclusion. So your contribution and your niche will be here. Okay, on the conclusion. So people will realize that's what kinds of the contribution you have. And names, when you have the contribution, going back to the introduction part to see what kinds of the motivation you can give and what kinds of the reference you can cite, and names that gives the names and another's writing for abstract. Okay, needs to pay attention to the formats you use. So that's the suggestion is that's again read to guide for authors, especially the reference format. Okay, read and learn formal and elegant word. So writing is not the case that just to talk to your peers. We need to use the very formal and elegant word. For example, we seldom use the word for examples in the manuscript, even though we often and talk to some guys using, for example, and so on, etc., and some others. But it is very seldom to the journal. We usually will use the such as blah 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 and or the like blah 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 and that. So that is the formal case we are doing. And tries to use the interdisciplinary thinking, okay, for your discussion. Because if you would like us to publish your journal in your manuscript in a good journal, you need us to attract more people to read. So that's the discussion for interdisciplinary thinking. So that's the people can read from different angles. That is very important. And not only for the researchers in chemistry will read your paper, even those for those chemical engineering or environmental engineering, or even for pharmaceutical scientists will read your papers. Names, your papers will be good. And names, if you can do that, name, all the journals will be more than happy to accept your manuscripts. So that is the case here. So it means that quality is the most important. Okay, going back to the journal, because when you find your contribution a niche name, you can start to select your journal. Journal selection actually is one kind of the big issues for people. Yeah. At this moment, we have the several major journal publishers, including Elsevier. That's one of the biggest publishers in the world. Okay, they publish more than 100 journals from different fields. Second is the ACS. Okay, so that's when we read the papers that they would like us to have such kind of a symbol. It means that that's they from ACS. And for Elsevier is something like here. And the other is that's for RSC. This two system is American Chemical Society. RSC is the Royal Society of Chemistry. So ACS is mainly from the US, and Royal Society mainly from the UK. So what we are seeing is that's most Americans publish their papers in ACS. And a lot of the Europeans publish their papers in Royal Society of Chemistry. So it's very interesting. So that's if you like us to read some papers from the US, tries to find the journals of ACS. If you find that needs us to know that the research trends in Europe and names RSC journals will be good for you. And we still have there are some others like Wiley, Springer, and also have some others like AAS and Cambridge and some others. And we also have some other like this open access system like MDPI, also Hindawi. They need us to pay the APC for name and names that they will be good. Now, some journals of MDPI names that they got the very good impact factor. Okay, for example, nanomaterials from MDPI is one kind of open access system. Now, in 2020, that means that that's the new list, the impact factors, the names, they can up to around the 5.4. So that is quite high. So that's in chemical engineering fields that they was the Q1 journal. So that will be good. But when you want to publish it, you need us to get the acceptance and the names that's to pay around the I think it should be around the 2,000 Swiss francs, yes, to publish. So that is relatively expensive, but now a lot of people would like us to publish. So that is the case here. So you can try to find any kinds of the journals you would like us to publish. To my honest, for all this one, especially in the chemistry and materials fields, ACS is one of the most difficult parts journals to publish. Okay, yeah. So that is the case. My feeling. Yeah. So that's a lot of the people in chemistry fields. They would like us to publish their paper in ACS journals. Yeah. So that can prove that their research quality is good enough. So that is the some of rules for us, especially for chemistry. Okay, so the journal selection is also one kind of a little bit troublesome, especially you need to know how to express their number, means that's concentration, what kind of the wording they use, names, what is their reference format. Different journal have the different formats, but fortunately, for those the reference journal are almost similar for a system, for ACS system, for RSC system, or for elsewhere system. Very similar. Even though they have some small difference, but will be similar. For example, for ACS, if you want to publish the paper in ACS system, names, they always use the figure A, blah, 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 figure B, and names that they always write down all the figures, okay, A and B. And the concentration you use the milligram dash per liter. If you have some supporting information, they always use the supporting information in their system. If you would like us to publish in RSC system, names that will be a little bit different, because in RSC system, they strongly encourage you to use their template. Okay, so the preparation of the manuscript in their template actually is not so easy, but they highly recommend. So you can download the template from their website. Names that they will have their format. And in RS system, sometimes they use the figures, the FIG doc. Sometimes they use the figure, something like here. Okay, but if you have some extra information want to put in supporting information, they do not say it's a supporting information. They use it electronic supplementary information. So they use the ESI, this word. A lot of people would like us to publish in elsewhere. In elsewhere, it will be very similar to some other system. That means that that's their rule. It's similar, that they have their own system. For example, they do not use the figures, the full name. They use FIG dot 1 and 2, and the concentration they use is milligram L minus 1. So that is the case. And names that they do not use the supporting information. They use the supplementary data. All this actually is the very tiny things, but it will be very important if you want to get your journals to be accepted. Because when you submit this to ACS and names the supporting information, you use the ESI. The reviewers as well as the editors will believe that your journal has submitted this to RSC first and names to ACS. So their thoughts will be, since you have submitted this to RSC and names to ACS, it means that your paper has been declined, rejected by RSC. If your paper has been declined by another journal and then submits this to resubmit this to another journal, names that they will consider your contribution and your qualities very seriously. So the preparation is very important, and tries to let the editors as well as the reviewers believe that your submission is the first submissions to their journal. So it means that your submission to any kinds of the journals will be your first priority. You need to create such kinds of the thoughts and image to the editors and to your reviewers, and then that will be relatively easy to get accepted. So it is very important. Tip for writing, we mentioned it again. Okay, so the writing sequence is here again, just to emphasize. Write the experimental first, and names to result and discussion introduction. So that is the case I would like us to emphasize to you. Okay, yeah. So here is the case. Okay. When you do the research, you always have the motivation, and then you design your methodology and experiment, and then you got the result. Sometimes you cannot consider just the very complete. So that's the design of the methodology and experimentals may have some insufficient part. Or when you design your methodology and experiments, and then you get the different kinds of the result. That is very interesting. So that's that you need to going back to the result here, and then go back to here to see what is the motivation. So for the writing, you cannot just do motivation, methodology, and then get the result and then done. You need to think about what is the results you get. What is the contribution? Maybe you got quite the new findings, okay, beyond your expectation. So that's the tries to modify your motivation and tries to modify your methodology to prove or to suppose the new finding. And then you will have another new story for them. So that is the case. Analyze your result first and compares to the other work. That is the case before you write and select the journal. It is very important, and tries to identify your niche. I always mention contribution and niche is very important. And for any kinds of the journal, they would like us to know that your result is quite unique. So that's your uniqueness needs to be emphasized here. Since you find your new niche and your contribution and your uniqueness compares to the other works, so you can discuss the meaning and contribution of your result. from the chemistry point of view, from the environmental point of view, or even from the pharmaceutical point of view. This is very important for you because you guys mainly focus on the three major parts. So you need to think about, if your research is highly related to pharmaceutical, definitely you need to discuss those data from pharmaceuticals point of view. Like I mentioned, if you can use the multidisciplinary thinking to discuss a name, have some discussion related to chemistry, a name mainly focus on pharmaceutical names, that will be more attractive. That is the uniqueness of your papers. Okay, a name concludes your result. It means that here you can get, and then going back just to discuss, re-examine your motivation. So you can try this to change it or to modify. So during that case, delineate your story now. Okay, so your story will be formed from this part until the compares and analyze your data and find your niche contribution uniqueness. Names you can delineate. That means that's to have your frameworks of your story. A name starts to find the good story for you. Okay, yeah. So that is the case. You need to know. Experimental section is important. Names that I think people knows how to write it. So do not copy and paste. That is most important. Do not use the figure. Paper is not the thesis. In thesis, we would like us to use a lot of figures just to suppose the experimental section we use, but not the case for journal paper. Okay, we would like us to merge, if you really need, merge the most important information into scheme. If needed, we will show you later on. For experimental session, if you would like us to publish papers, names you need to have quite suitable length. Okay, but here is some of the rules for the length. Usually 3 to 4 pages are suitable. Sometimes people will be shortened to 2 pages. That will be also okay, but that cannot be long. Okay, people usually will use the 3 pages or 3.5. Okay, or even 2 pages, that will be okay. No more than 4 pages, that's too long. That's too long. Okay, yeah. Result and discussion is also quite important, yeah, because that can show your main contribution here. Some rule is here. Figure and tables usually will be 5 to 7. That will be relatively okay. Some journal actually that they can accept up to around the 10 figures. That will be also okay. Yeah, that will be also okay. Depends on journal. But the most journal actually that they would like us to have only 5 to 7. Okay, depends on main text. I mean that's the no figures and tables, 6 to 8 pages. Okay, I mean that's if you use the 12 points, double space. No matter you use the Tiny Roman and some others. Okay, yeah, that's the 6 to 8 pages. Up to 10 pages will be okay. Up to 10 pages will be okay. But try to avoid the long pages, the larger than 10 pages. Why we do not write so long pages? Okay. During the first time, I mentioned this to you that the simple is important. Simple is better for a journal or for a journal paper, because the nouns, a lot of papers that they talk about the 1.1 papers. So they would like us to solve only one point, one issue. Okay, you don't need us to talk about the 2 issues, 3 issue, names that's to sub names very simply, names the write the story very simply. So that's the tries to let your manuscripts conscious on simple names that can and clear, so that they can to figure out the problem and how to solve it or their phenomena. So there's no need to write the long papers, the larger than 10. But if you access the figure and tables 5 to 7 and names, your papers will be around, your main text will be around the 12 to 15 pages. Is the relatively long. Okay, yeah, so that is the case here. Okay, put some minor results to support the information, supplementary data or ESI. I mentioned that it depends on the journal you select. Okay, yeah, so that is the case. Resultant discussion tries to use the figure and tables to address your most important contribution. Name I mentioned, I'm going back to here. Sorry, here. Tries to put the minor results to support the information. So that's the here. If we would like us to use figure and tables to emphasize, needs this to be most important part, and explain the meaning and contribution of your data. For good journals, especially for journal in RSC or in ACS, they would like us to reduce to express every point or every line of your figure and table. It's not just to say that, oh, my data is here, that's it. So you need to tell them that my data is here, and then names what is the meaning of the curve A, what is the meaning of curve C, what is the meaning of curve D, and names some reviewers will challenge when you talk about A and C and D, names the no discussion about B. Okay, yeah, so that is the case here. So tries to explain very clearly. So explain the meaning and contribution of all your data, okay, and tries to reinforce your correctness of your data. You can use the two cases to reinforce the correctness of your data. One is from the physical chemical parameters of your system as well as for your chemicals. Second is that from a reference. That means that you find that some people also got such kinds of the phenomena and names you can cite and discuss. Okay, so discussion is more important than results. Okay, last week we talked about the coaching clinic. Names I discussed two papers with you. During that case, my feeling is that discussion actually is not sufficient. You got the quite a good results, but discussion can reinforce the correctness of your data. So try to emphasize the discussion and tries to express all the data get inside. So that is the case. If you would like us to have the discussion, people will believe that your data will be correct. And names, it is not your own paper. What is your own papers? That means that only results, and no discussion and no comparison. So it seems like left repose. Okay, I do A, and then got data B, I do BE, and then got data C. So that is the case. So it's something like the routine work. Okay, when you do not have any kinds of the discussion, name your own paper means that's the routine work. Okay, you just do analysis, just do an analysis. Names most people still don't accept the routine work. Okay, yeah, so that is the case. Discussion is very important. Here is the case I would like us to let you know. One kind. Discussion cannot be so aggressive, be humble, but confident. Okay, so that's the here, not just only be humble, but be confident. You need to have quite a good confidence with your data, so that you can write those words very positively, names that will be good. And do not overstate your contribution. It is also very important. If your contribution is A, cannot say that, oh, I can do the contribution A and B and C. Okay. A lot of people would like us to do that case. For example, so if you use the SEM image, So that's you see that the O's that they can separate quite good. So that's the there's the particle is the nanoparticle. So that's the they will have the quite a good photocatalytic behavior. That's the two overstates of your contribution from SEM. Because the main source for SEM is only to see the morphology. They cannot provide the active site. They cannot provide the surface area. They also cannot provide the photocatalytic activity. Okay, yeah. So from SEM, you only can say is that their particle size distributes quite well. Their particle size is very less. Mean particle size may be only for 3. That's it. That's it. You cannot write is their particle size are only 3, so that's their photocatalytic efficiency will be good. It's different, totally different. So we say that's we say that's to overstate your contribution. That is the meaning there. Okay. Every analysis have their own meaning. They only can show one phenomena or one property, cannot just to exaggerate this to another's property. Okay. Name second is that tries to compare your data with the reference. So it is the case here. So if you have your data in this one is the blue lines, names you can compare this to the reference. So that you can plot it by your own. So if you have something like the case here, names that people will believe that you know that this field quite good, quite well. So that is the case. And the last one is tries to correlate it with the physical chemical property of their surface properties with in your paper. This is another case. We got the reduction. We got the degradation of these five chemicals from trinitrophenol, dinitrophenol, 4 nitrophenols, 2 nitrophenol, and 3 nitrophenol. So that's something like a phenol. Okay, names they as the different nitro functional groups and that NO2 on the surface. So we have the position can be ortho, meta, and para. That's the 2, 3, 4, and then we can add the 2 nitro, 3 nitro. So that's there's 2, 4, and there's 2, 4, 6. So that is the case. And then we got the KOBS and then find out that there's something like this here. So that's we try to analyze their pKa's and their Ks, and then we can find out the 3 to 1 will have the good relationship. And names when there's here is 4 to 3. We use the Hamlet's constant to explain. So you can try to use the physical chemical property of surface properties to explain. And people will believe that you got quite a good result. So that's from the case from these figures, we can fully suppose our analysis is correct. And the phenomena we get is also quite correct. So people will believe that the result is correct. And names that will be relatively easy for us to get accepted. Discussion, sometimes we add the proposed the reaction mechanism. For example, if you are doing the chemical reaction, sometimes that they would like us to know what is their reaction mechanism. So that you can try to process your own figures of your own cartoon here. For example, so we process our own cartoon here, okay, so that we try to do the precipitation and names to remove some boron inside. So we try to find out, they can form, so we use the silicon dioxide and names that they can do the coagulation, flocculation, and names to do the granules on the surface of the silicon dioxide. But if we use the different kind of seeds, the names that they forms the different phenomena. So that's from the SM. Sometimes we find it is some particle. Sometimes we find that's some grains and have the coat. Even they have some needle shape. So we propose such kinds of the phenomena, and explains what it happens. So it means that the niche here is very, very clear. We find that the difference, the seeds will form different morphology, and so we also identify that there are possible reaction mechanism. So that is quite easy for us to let this manuscript to be accepted. Okay, we published this in ACS Omega here. Okay, yeah, so that is the case. We mentioned that the introduction is the most important part. So here is the case I would like us to emphasize. After analyzing your data, and then you find the contribution, you find your niche, names, you can start to think about what is the main motivation. Even though this motivation will be a little bit different from your original one, but you still can adjust. So that is the case here. After you got the data and contributions, so you need to think about what is the motivation and what has been done before. From your contribution, a niche tries to find what has been done before. That means that you need to do the very brief literature review and tell your reviewer and audience what can be done. This one is the motivation. This one is the real motivation. So that's what kind of the problem you want to solve. What kind of the problem you want to solve. If possible, try to use the scheme to illustrate your concept or your whole work. Here, I mean that's when you have the scheme and names, especially for the good journal, they are more than happy to have the scheme. So that's when you check the journal in the high ranking journal like ACS, RSC, or even some elsewhere in the Q1 journal. Okay, they all have the scheme there. They all have the scheme there. And for those the writing, especially for introduction, if you do not contain scheme, prefers 2 or 2.5 pages. Okay, no longer than 3 pages for introduction. Needs to be shown, conscious, and names very clear to say what can be done and your objectives. So that is the case here. This one is the case to show you how to prepare your scheme. Your schemes actually is highly related to objective. We published it in Applied Catalysis B. This paper is highly cited paper. So that's here from this scheme, people will realize that that's how to prepare your material and what kinds of the reaction that happen. So from this scheme, if they do not read our result and discussion, and names that they will know that we use the cell ureas to prepare the bulk carbon nitride, and names that to use the thermal exfoliations to find the nanosheet. So that's from the bulk materials to the nanomaterial. A name tries to upload over the 2 topics the gold nanoparticle on the surface using the photo reduction. And when you use the photo reduction, names we use this gold to decompose nitrophenol. And the parameter we consider is the concentration, pH, and ion, and some other names where they happen because they have some reaction, possible reaction mechanism here. So from this simple scheme, your readers will realize what kind of the work you will do. Okay, we will do such kind of work. A name focus on nitrophenol. A name use the gold. A name in the presence of boron hydride to talk about their reaction mechanism. The material you use is the carbon nitride. So here is the objectives we do. Okay, so that is the case. For objective, you need to write the main objective here. So the first sentence is the main objective. And then we use the schemes to tell them that's what kind of work we have done. We prepare our materials by load work. names, we do some different kinds of the parameters we do. And we also try to the names to know what is the possible reaction mechanism. So that's the here you will see that's I did not write that also we do the surface analysis by TM. So we analyze their surface areas by BET. We analyze their optical property by UV visible spectrum. We do not write such kind of things. Instead, we talk about using a story tail name. Okay, scheme 1 is the tail 1 story here. So that's the name here is the case. But instead, for this the story, we clearly mention that's what kind of work we have done. Okay, so that's when we want to analyze the negotiate, when we want to do the case and the names, we the work, and people will realize what kinds of the analysis you can do, because this is quite a good journal. So we believe that if you will read such kind of good journal, people will realize that if you want to analyze the nitrophenol, they need to use something like HPLC or use UV visible some others. So that is the case. And then we also mentioned that there's parameters here. So goal is the 0.523 weight. So people will know that this is the parameter we use. And here we emphasize the main contribution. For example, the nanosheet is only 3 to 6 the layers and names that we got that the reaction is that they will produce hydrogen proton. We will produce proton radicals here. So that is the main case. So people will realize what kind, if they have the interest in that the names, then they will read. Okay, this is another case we'll do. Okay, so that's here we use the coconut shells to prepare the name at the magnesium dioxide to form the biochar here. Names we use this biochar for capacitive deionization. So that's here you will see that's the other word is the relatively small, but capacitive deionization is relatively big. So it means that we are focusing on this part. Okay, yeah, so that is also the case. You can try to see. So all the works will be here. So that's this one is the same. This is the objectives you can see. Okay, so as shown in scheme 1, this one, names we do a lot of things here. Names how to prepare. Names we determine by CV, by the others, and the name we do the SEC. So if you publish in a good journal, no need to write it in a very, very, very routine work. For example, we would like us to analyze their surface area by BET. People knows that. Okay, we would like to know their morphology by SEM and TM. People knows that. Okay, so that's the unique to write at this moment. The high impact journal, they would like us to write in the very, very comprehensive way, especially to write it in a story. Okay, but the unique to realize all this wording will be a little different from your abstract and conclusion, because you just emphasize for that. It just emphasize. This is another case we are trying to. I would like to try to show you. Okay, we just published this paper in Chemical Engineering journals. Okay, we use the scheme. So would like to tell you that's how to prepare the scheme. So that's we use the two chemicals that forms the nitrogen doped carbon dots, and names tries to form our material. Okay, why we have such kinds of the morphology of our material, because we got it from our SEM. So that's from those SEM, you will see that we see the rod shape is here. Names we got the different kinds of the identification, and names that's something like a sheet. So that's the names that we also see that they were sticking together. So that is the case. We try to write our scheme here. So when we put the names in nitrogen doped carbon And those on the surface names, we find that they have some rough shape. So that's we do that's the rough shape. So this is the case we got. So will be similar to this one. And this one actually is the two-dimensional name we use the carbon nitride. So that is the case. So we draw a scheme here. So that is the case. So we just explained this scheme in a very comprehensive way. We use the tail names, the function. In this system, we have three different kinds of the component. One is the nitrogen topics carbon dose. Okay, that means the carbon. Second is that we have the carbon nitride. Third one is that we have the one photocatalyst here. That's bismuth monadium oxide. So that's here we put three different kind of chemical. So if you put this, a lot of chemicals or materials in your system, you need to explain their function, their roles in your reaction. So here's we talk about the very clearly. Carbon nitride CN is serves as the suppose. Bismuth monadium actually they serve as the photocatalyst. Names NCD here. We talk about these tristage to reinforce that their visible light driven case. So that is the case we talk about. It is also very important if you would like us to talk about the roles of your material needs us to show is in the very clear. Okay, especially if you can put this in objectives name, that will be good. Okay, names, you know how to prepare your main frames, but that's the figure and tables in your papers, in your manuscript is the most important. A lot of people just believe that that's when we just press the figure and table and names, everything will be done. Actually, it is not the case. A lot of papers was rejected. A lot of paper was rejected. That's because their figure and tables is not good. It's not good. Their quality, their data quality is good, but the preparation of figure and table is not good. So here, I would like us to tell you that how to prepare the figure and table is not just my feeling. Actually, a lot of journal papers talk about how to prepare figures and tables, especially for figures. You can try this to find the different kinds of the paper from ACS journal, especially for those good journal. They really focus on the quality of figures. I will show you some example later. Okay, so figures should be complete and do not need to refer to text. Needs the frame, tip, and also needs to have the caption and legend. Okay, figure legend should be short but meaningful. Okay, names use figures to show their relationship. Okay, and I would like us to tell you is that do not plot your figures using the original data. Try to plot includes some secondary data. Secondary data means that you have to digest and compare this to some other result. Okay, this is the case. How do you think that whether this figure is good or no? Actually, you will see some SEM in some journal here, but actually it is not the good way. For example, we seldom show this part. We seldom show this part. Okay, we don't need this way. So that we will change it into something like here. Okay, so we just change it into A, B, C, D, and then we put the scale bar here. So that's what we just cut. Just to show you, we just cut this part. So that's a name. We change the TNT and some other. Names, people will challenge that. How do we know what is the meaning A, what is the meaning B? Tries to write this in your figure captions. So people will believe that is the case we would like us to do. How do you think about this case? Okay, we do a lot of work from 1 milligram per liter to 50 milligram per liter, so that they have at curves here, but actually it is very hard to read. Just think about when you do this part is for absorption, no change. Names you have your curves, but it seems that very hard to see the curve change here. So you need to change it into something like here. Okay, just the changes a name tries to let this part small. Okay, so that's you will see that's the from here they almost has around the 40%. So that's the tries to reduce this to around the 20 to 25%. Here sometimes the people don't show, but here I show it that that's because I would like us to mention that that's for absorption part in the dark. There's the no change, so that they do not have the absorption, so that they have some meaning. And here, when you use the line with symbol and names, that the curves will be very clear, will be very clearly. So that is the case when you compare these two. Okay, and then you will see that the quality here will be relatively good. So that is the case. And what is the primary data and the secondary result? Okay, we talk about the case here. This one actually is the primary results we got. Okay, so a lot of people will use it. It is important, I believe, and also needs to show. But when you want to do the discussion, you need to have the secondary or derived the results here. So we got their K value. Names we try to merge with their TOC. TOC is their physical chemical property. Maybe it's the primary, but it's not the primary. It just belongs to secondary data. So that's we just merge it. So that's to see this form. And then we find that's the material we used. I showed the scheme here previously. Used the NCT with the bismuth monadium, the top is on the surface of the graphitic carbon nitride, so that you will see that's the depth. So here we show that that's when we use this composite, there's the rate constant increase dramatically, and names that they were bit high, and the TOC removal efficiency will be also high. So tries to emphasize that the results here is good. Names, if you do the pH effects, so you got the data here. So we just only see that that's pH 5 is not good, pH 7 is quite good, and pH 8 is the best. Okay, yeah. A name you need to tell people why pH 5, 6, 7 will be just okay, 8 will be good. Names when you increase the pH to 9 and 10, the reaction decrease again. So that's we try to merge the KOBS with their species here. So that's we use the simple analytical chemistry. A name tries to analyze their fraction of their CIP, charge the CIP in solution. So different pH value, actually they have the different charge on the surface. So we try to monitor their change. Okay, so you can see that their monitors will be quite good. So this red lines is the data we got. Names the curve, the line here, like purple ones, the blue ones, is the case we simulate. And for this data and names we'll see, it seems quite good. We can get the purple one will be similar to our trend. So we can analyze it and names to prove that that's the result is correct. If you can have such kind of data, names, your papers will be more convincible and more valuable because you can prove your data is correct. Okay, figure quality is important. I have no idea with this. Do you see that this one will be good or no? For me, this one actually is unacceptable. the meaning is here. Okay, when we have the case, this one is too dark. A names that not so clear. It is too dark, not so clear. A names that they cannot separate. Sometimes the their frame is black, is quite bold. Sometimes it's quite thin. Names that some are big, some are small. Okay, a name you can see that the words actually has been distorted. That means that originally that their figure is small, and then they just enlarge using the artificial way. So that's all this actually you will see that the qualities will be not good. So if you publish such kinds of the paper, even though the data here is very clear, we do a lot of work, okay, but your editor as well as your reviewers will be not satisfied to this figure quality. Okay, so this is another case. Actually, we also do not satisfy this quality, figure quality. Same case is here. This one is that's too bold, too big, and then you can see that when you enlarge it, the word is not so clear. Okay, and this two is another. So that's you can see that the line is very good. We do a lot of works, and then they follows the two stage linearity. If you enlarge this part, become here. If you enlarge this part, become here. You will see that there is here. It seems quite okay, but when you look inside, we cannot see the point here. We cannot see the point here. Names that the size here is too small, so that we can not see very clearly. So that's it means that it is not a good figures. So you need to change. So that's how do you know how to do that? How to do that? So we need to think about how to let the figures relatively good. So that's this one is the acceptable one. So that you can see that the frames will be the same, and names that their lines will be okay. So middleware, that's the curve will be the most important part. So that's you need to know that case. So this one is not available. Okay, you can see that the point is small, and line is just too thin, and then you can see that's just too thin here. So you need to change it into something like here. Even though you can see that I just change it a little bit, but this one will be relatively better than this one, and we just change this part into here. So that's the also seems that will be relatively good. Okay, yeah. So that is the case if you would like us to prepare. Okay, okay. So that is the real case in my lab. Then I will tell you that's what kinds of the thoughts of the editors. Okay, so that's from the figure forms. This one actually is from the chemical engineering, chemistry material. Sorry, from the chemistry materials are from ACS. They try to let people know what is the figure forms that they would like us to use. So in the editorial comments, they say that okay, you can select the different kinds of the fonts, Arials, Helvetica, Times New Romans, or Calibri. So that's the words will be a little different. This one is that the commonly used form. That will be also tell you that if you would like us to use the form in your thesis, especially in your figure, try to select this form. That will be good. Okay. But if you would like us to talk about the loss setting, especially for loss chemical structure, okay, they said that this is good. Okay, even though the same one. Okay, so this is good because we can see that the functional groups here very clearly. So that's he suggests to use the Helvetica. If you change it into times, names, it will be relatively thin, even though we still can see. So he said that this one will be still acceptable, not great. But that will be terrible if you use the very small time form. Means that you use maybe just only 12 points or even 10 points. This is too small, so that the people can see that. So even though we use the same structure, but people will believe that your quality will be good when you use this one. So that is the case from, so that's they just write these comments in 2016. Another case is here from the Journal of Physical Chemistry Letters. Okay, they talk about how to do the excellent, this one should be excellence, graph excellence. So that's here is the case. If you have the 5 lines, A and B and C, so that's they have the case here. So they mentioned that you need to do the case. Legends needs to be identified, a name can be traceable. If you would like us to put the insert inside, needs to be that is very clearly. So when you compare this one into here, so that's you will say that's why I said that it is not acceptable here. So they have the case, Journal of Physical Chemistry Letters in 2014. They said that your line should be bold access line. A name you need to have the visible major and minor tips. That means that here, the tip should be, and those tips should be get inside. Sometimes they don't get inside, sometimes they'll get outside. Get inside, all the tip needs to be get inside. Analyze the data in the inset so that you don't need to have the A and B, even though some people use this, for example, my labs. Okay, but they say let's analyze data in the inset because they believe that belongs to the one. Okay, this needs to be that your figures or your curves very distinguishable. Okay, use the curve color. So that will be a name. You will see that the color will be relatively bold and not too thin. Okay. Okay. SS title with unit. This is very important. Okay. For bold and larger form. Okay. Do not use the small one. Okay. So that is the case. If you would like us to prepare, it is not my thoughts. It is the thoughts from the editors of the Journal of the Physical Chemistry Letters. So you will see that if you want like us to publish a good journal, names, graph preparation needs to be very important. So the thumb rules for figures, that is the case. Okay, I request to my students. Okay, this is the case of the frame. Okay, needs to see. Okay, this one should be very clean. Names, you need to see the clearest major and minor tips here. This one should be big, okay? Names, the lines and the point should be clear. So that's when we select the point should be 12 to 15 points. Do not just use their default. Sometimes their default is 9, sometimes it's 8. That's too small. Lines that they always use the 0.5. Tries to select line is 3 to 4. Names, the legend get inside will be very clear. It depends. Okay, we call it the symbol rule, means that they can be changed according to how busy or how many lines, how many data in your figure. If you only have the 3 to 4 names, that will be fine. That will be fine. Okay, yeah. So this is the case, but I think I can skip this one. Do not plot such figures. Okay, the trends here, you will see that the quality here is very terrible. Unfortunately, some students will plot such kinds of the figure and want to publish. Actually, all the journals do not accept such kinds of the figures. You need to improve the quality. So quality is poor. Figure legends are meaningless. Okay, because you did not show their legend. The trend is not incorrect because they cannot be upside down. Upside down is not the case. Illustration of yours Y and SS. Okay, and then you will see that's really ugly. Okay, so that is the case for us just to prepare figure and table also. For us, you will see that all the tables will be something like here. We do not have the vertical line here. Okay, do not put the vertical line here. Also do not have the line here. We only have the line. We will say that they only have the 3 lines, major 1, 2, 3 lines here. So they do not have any line inside. Table headings will be here. Figure caption will be at the bottom. Okay, so it is the thumb of rules you need to know. If you would like us to put the table heading will be here. Figures caption will be here. Okay, yeah, so that is the case. So I mentioned that this one is not acceptable because they do not have something like the vertical line and so many lines, and this data actually is hard to be read. So that's we just changes all the data. We mentioned that again, we do not use the original data. This is the original data, very careful. So that's we try to use the derived or secondary data. So we published this paper, okay? We published these tables in paper. So that's we try to change it. We used all the low data, divided into group 1, group 2, group 3, and names, tries to the names that's a little bit different, okay? So this table is more readable and more meaningful, okay, compares to this one. So we mentioned that this is the original data. You got lost phenomena from your result, from your observation, but you cannot just put it because the people do not do the experiment. So that's that they would like us to know what is their trend, what is their meaning. So you need the two changes into the derived result. So we just derive into, so that's you see that's what is the meaning of the group A, group B, group C. There's color, final colors here. Okay, reds, greens, and blue. So that is the case we would like us to see. Okay, yeah. Okay, so reference is also very important. Only those reference are relatively important. We can add. Previous time, especially around 5 to 10 years ago, people believe the 3 to 40 reference should be sufficient. But it changed. Now people would like us to have the 40 to 50. Some journal even they can size the more than 60. But most of the journal papers actually they will allow around 40 to 50. Okay, so that's the try to keep the reference in such kinds of the number. And this one is the thumb of rules and very important because for any kinds of the journal, they would like us to publish the recent funding. If you would like us to publish the recent funding, names that they need us to know what is the trend. So you need to size the recent 3 years more than 30%, and in recent 5 years larger than 50%. That is very, very, very important. Do not size the reference more than 5 years or more than 10 years majorly. Okay, yeah. If you just size the reference more than 5 or 10 years, okay, all the reviewers and all the editors will believe that you do not follow the trend, and you do not understand the fields of your fields quite good. Okay, so that is the case. Okay, and do not oversight your own publication. Theoretically, will be less than 10%. Will be less than 10%. Okay, So that is the case here. Tries to understand if you would like us to publish this to the journal A, tries to cite reference from that journal. Okay, yeah. So that is very important. One case is that my lab mates always tell me that, oh, they would like us to publish the papers, for example, in environmental science and technology names. I said that, oh, that will be good. That will be quite a good journal. How many references that you cite from that journal? He said that's the 0. Okay. Names that will cause the big problems, because how comes you would like us to publish your manuscript to this journal, but you did not read any journal and cite any paper from their journal? It is not acceptable. So that's the try to cite some reference from that journal you would like us to submit. It is very important, even 3 or 4, that will be also. You can try to arrange your reference by endnotes, but cannot trust it, because they always have a lot of error inside. Okay, yeah. So we talk about this one. Okay, but I would like us to mention is that as the notes, when you submit your manuscript to any journal, they would like us to check using the Turnitin or iDedicate to check their similarity. Most of times, their similarity should be less than 25%, so that you need to check by yourself first before you want to submit. Less than 20 will be better. Sometimes it is not so easy, especially for the long manuscript, but try to reduce the similarity less than 20. Okay, yeah. So that is the case I would like us to mention. Okay, before submission, it is also very important. Or I have another 5 minutes, so that's it should be okay for me to finish in 5 minutes. Before submission, you need to have the cover letters. You need to select the reviewer. You also need to have the graphic abstract and highlight. So cover letters here, the thumb rules is that try to emphasize the most important contributions to the editors. From my personal point of view, cover letter actually do not so important to influence whether the editors will send your manuscripts for review or no. Yeah, but instead, sometimes they can help you to let your editors have some good impressions on your manuscripts. Okay, so that is the main function. Review is the most important. Okay, reviews we will check can be found from the reference you cited of your friends, of your collaborators. Okay, yeah. So we will mention the data. Graphic abstracts the nouns. In recent 2 years, more and more reviewers will focus on the qualities of graphic abstract, and not just only for graphic abstract. Some journals do not request graphic abstract, but they request for highlight. Highlight is also important. Highlight some bullet that the readers to capture your novel result. Okay, yeah. But for any kinds of the bullet, they only request 85 characters, but can be extended to around 100. That will be okay. So we will mention cover letter is here. A little bit different from if you want to do last names, you need to prepare a little bit different from the abstract. Okay, so in the cover letter, you need to emphasize your uniqueness and contribution. That is the case I always mention. Uniqueness and contribution is very important to the field you studied. You need to write it very clearly, even though that's only few sentences, to your editors. Okay, yeah. So a name some journal can select editors. Okay, so tries to select the editors that is friendly to you. Okay. Yeah. So it is the case. We submit our manuscripts to Environmental Science Knowledge. It's quite a good journal from SC system. Okay. Yeah. So here, this one actually is the editor-in-chief, so that we can avoid to select the editor. Okay, so that's the first one is to talk about the titles of our paper, by whom, okay, and then we would like us to submit then this material for the consideration of published in their journal. And second paragraph will talk about the uniqueness and contribution. So that here I just enlarge it. Here we just talk about our contribution. In this study, we have first developed. Okay, this one is the material, because this journal talk about using the nanomaterials for environmental science. So that's the materials they use is very important. So we try to emphasize we use the very novel nanomaterial here. Okay, so that's here is talk about the environmentally friendly is the nanocomposite. So environmental science definitely we need to environmental or friendly. Names that the particle size is small at 10. And the second paragraph talk about the contribution here. Okay, so that's we use is just to find some good result. Names that here is the to the best of our knowledge. This is the first report. This is the contribution we want. Okay, we want to emphasize. Okay, but we do not write to the best of the knowledge. This is the first report. We do not write this in our manuscript because that's just too risky. Okay, yeah, but that's too edited will be fine. Okay, yeah. So that is the case for the collaborators. You can try to emphasize. Review is also important. Most journals request 3 to 5 potential reviewers, and some journals also can provide updates the reviews like RSC and ACS that they all can do. Some rules here. Reviewers should be from different countries. You cannot just decide from the US or just decide from the Europe. You need to have one from US, one from Europe, one from Asia. That will be good. That will be good. And select one reviewers from your country. You can select the 2 of your friend, or you can try to find the friendly reviewers from your reference. And how do you know who is the friendly reviewers? This needs some experience. Sometimes when you publish paper, okay, names that they give you the quite a good comment, but that they will try this to say that's all you need. This to cite several reference, and then you find that the several reference belongs to the same lab, and names you can get it into your database. It is the friendly reviewer. Sometimes your paper is get declined, get rejected, and names that they also say that it is not good because you did not cite a lot of reference from the other lab. Okay, so that's also just correct it. Names that is the update reviewers. We usually can find from the comment. We will know that who will be the friendly reviewers, who will be the update reviewers. Okay, yeah, so that is the case. And if possible, try to suggest your friends to be the reviewers. That will be good. That will be good. Graphic abstract is also important at this moment. Okay, graphic abstract, the thought is that tries to summarize your work and most important contribution in a figure. Graphic abstract actually is an abstract to let people read your main thought and contribution from a figure. Okay, so you can ask from your materials, your reaction mechanism, and some others. So sometimes it can be different from schemes or be similar, but that tries to avoid the same one. Okay. Should be very clear, conscious, and also pay attention to colors and font size. Then needs to the names very clear. Highlight is the case we mentioned. Only journal papers from elsewhere has highlight. For YD, ACS, RSC, they don't need highlight. They don't need, only elsewhere needs highlight. Okay, so if you publish the manuscripts to elsewhere journals, needs to prepare highlight. Okay, yeah, this is the case. Give you some example. Like I mentioned, I show you the cover letters names. We fortunately we got accepted and published that's the manuscripts in Environmental Science Journals 2020. This is the original graphics we use. Okay, yeah, but the reviewers that do not satisfy, they request us to prepare our graphic abstract so that we change it here. So this one is the case we mentioned. We just compare our result is good, but they said that we only show the result, cannot show that delineate the whole picture. So that we just do this case. So you can compare which one is good. We use these two abstracts, graphic abstracts before, but finally we use this one. Definitely this one will be more colorful. People will know the story we want to use. If you just show that, we only show the results we got. So this one definitely is more suitable because they talk about the story. Okay, this is another case. We try to prepare our graphic abstracts from according to the material sensing principle and the text. We also published it in biosensor, in bioelectronics, in analytical chemistry. So that's what we use the electrochemical sensing here. We use the material here. This is the chemicals. This is the analyze we want to analyze glioma cells. This one is the cells, the tumor for brain tumors. Okay, and then we use the EIA spectrum to detect. So that's what we just use is that to let people know the story. So that from this graphic abstract, people will know that we use the electrochemical sensing material we use is here. Names that the analyte we use is glioma. Names that the method we use is the impedance. So that is the case to let people know the graphic abstract. They do not talk about the details about the value or the number, but they talk about the spirit. Okay, so this is also another case. We try to parse those graphic abstract, even though they're quite complicated. We mentioned this previous, right? And then we changed the graphic abstract into different kinds of the case. So that's we just try to talk about a very simple one. Talk about the reaction mechanism, and then tell people that's what kind of the material we have. So that is the case we would like to try to see. Okay, so highlight is also the case. Only journal from elsewhere are needed. Just give you one example. You can have 3 to 5, but that will be relatively simple. We just use the thumb rules to do. We do not mention is the value. Okay, we have to prepare this material and names that they got the very excellent property, and then they have the good photocatalytics and what kinds of the free radical they produce and what is their application. Okay, so it is the case for highlight. You don't need to just copy and paste your abstract to here. You can try to write by yourself. Okay, finally, I would like us to mention is that's the conclusion and suggestion. Submission of your manuscripts can be simple. Name if want to submit this to the international journal, needs to identify your contribution and niche first. Always mention, prepare your result elegantly, write the manuscript prudently, and follow the guides for author. Emphasize your contribution and uniqueness. If you can get such kinds of things, a name submission will be very simple, but submission of manuscript needs to practice. That means that you need to write more paper and then try to submit. If you submit once, twice, third one, and then you will get good experience, and then you will find that the submission will be good. I know that's the now that you would like us to do the first and second, so that I mean that's you can try to practice and follow the guideline I mentioned. The decline of manuscripts that means that the data quality of your research is not good. Sometimes it is because that the preparation of your figure is not good enough. So that's the you need to re-examine the figures and the data quality you get, and then tries to find the more suitable journals to submit. Okay, that is the case. Thank you. Okay, that's my talk. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Prof. Rui. So many important points that we get, and I myself also enlightened with some points from your lecture this morning. So in summary, because there is so very much meaningful sentences delivered by Prof. Rui, but some important things are, the first one, objective must be clear. The objective of the manuscript must be clear. And the second one, as the anecdote that the photograph speaks louder, so the effective figure in the manuscript talk impressively and meaningfully, and try to avoid so many references. Just use the very, very related references, because it is also reflect what you read about the state of the art of your research. And maybe the one important sentence is prepare the result elegantly, so the reviewers don't have reasons to reject the manuscript. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. There are so many questions in the room chat, Prof. So I can mention the first one is coming from Dr. Putut Mahendro. Good morning, Prof. I would like to know, as a chemist, what is our best choice if our research is less detailed in the field of chemistry, but is it a little more focusing on the other scientific fields? For example, as a chemist, we create device that detect arsenic level that cause poisoning, where the content of the research is more about the physical mechanism of the device and less about the arsen or any mechanism reaction of the chemistry. In this case, is it acceptable if we claim that our work belongs to the field of chemistry over the physics in journal publication? Thank you.
Yeah, the difference you can, if you find that there are a little bit less chemistry, but for chemistry actually is something like big words. So that's the when you check the Web of Science names, especially for SCI Imago, SC Imago, or to use the JCR, you always will find that the chemistry, they belongs to big family. Sometimes you can talk about the pharmaceutical chemistry. Toxicology is also one kind of chemistry. So that's the, if you want to talk about the case for poison, it means that that's maybe they contains a little bit toxic effects or some other physical meaning. And then you can try, if you would like us to focus them, like I mentioned the previous, you need to find your niche. If your niche contains the less chemistry, that will be fine. You can try to find this. You can try to find a suitable journal. One case is that tries to find some similar topics, which journals that they publish. If they can publish in chemistry and names, you can read that they add the more chemistry meaning to that, and then definitely it belongs to chemistry. If they all read in some case belongs just to pharmaceutical or belongs just to some, for example, your material or your chemicals is not the inorganic, is something like the organic, and names you can publish in organizers or in polymers and some others. If it is that definitely the no, the name tries to find some journal related to chemical physics or physical chemistry, that will be also okay. So tries to find the niche and contribution, and then the most important then results of your data, and then tries to find journal from the fields. There's so many. Okay, we always say that's for chemistry. For chemistry, if you got some data, all the data should be or can be published. Depends on which journal and which explanation you give. Okay, yeah. So that is the case from our main thought. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So the key is find the suitable journal. And
Yes.
actually, there are some website from some publisher to find the best fit journal for your manuscript. For example,
Yes.
for Elsevier, you can find the Elsevier Journal Finder. So you can copy paste your abstract in the website, then they will suggest which journal is suitable for your manuscript.
Yes.
Yeah, as well as for the Taylor and Francis, they also have the Springer. They also have such machine to help you to find the suitable journal. Okay, the second question is coming from Faibi Rahmawati, how to create a graphical abstract for the papers. It is a very, very nice question, I guess.
Yeah. Actually, I did not mention just too many things that related just to abstract. Okay, yeah. From my personal point of view, abstract actually is relatively hard to write at this moment, because previous times the people just only copy and paste some sentence in their result and discussion. But now more and more journal request us to write the abstract independently. So that's the try to think about. Okay, if you write the abstract independently, names you need to write several things. First is the objectives. Okay, it is very important. Objective needs to be very clear in your abstract. Second is that's the method you use. Okay, yeah. For example, if you would like us to do the pharmaceutical case, you need us to know how to extract and what kinds of the chemicals you get. Okay, yeah. Do not too detailed, but maybe should be very important. And third part is the main contribution, main finding you get. Do not write this too detailed, but try to summarize using different wording, using the comprehensive way to write your main contribution, main result. And the final part is the possible application. So that's for abstract, you need us to include the four parts. One is the objectives, impossible objectives, including your motivation. Second is the method you used. Very simply, just only one of two sentences. Third part is your main contribution, main result. That's the main part. Last one is the application, possible application, and there's potential use. So you need to include this four parts for your abstract. So you need to rewrite names that will be more attractive. So that is the case for abstract. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. So the graphical abstract is something like a summarize of the works with the picture, something like, I just mentioned that the figure speaks louder. Okay.
Yeah.
And Fabi, you can also search in YouTube. There are so many content about how to prepare the graphical abstract, as well as there are so many software to prepare this, something like View Render or there are so many software to prepare the graphical abstract.
Yeah. Sorry. So I would like us to emphasize for graphic abstracts. Maybe you can prepare for us. Actually, we just prepare from PPT. We prepare from PPT. That will be relatively simple, but you still need us to prepare the graphic abstract. So try to find the most important contribution to write your graphic abstract. That is the most important. So for graphic abstract, it's only one figure, so that's the no need that's to that it more too complicated, but the need is to show your major contribution inside. Okay, yeah. No matters that is the talk about the reaction mechanism or there's results tries to make its major contribution inside. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank
that
you.
is the case. Yeah.
Yeah. The third question is what does state of the art means, and how do you write state of the art in the research? I think it is in the paper, yeah. And how to maintain a state of the art in research. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. The Dr. Utami is mentioned that I need us to mention what is the how to do the state of the art. Actually, it's only few journals talk about the state of the art. The case of the state of the art means that that's the very comprehensive meanings, very comprehensive meaning of your work. So the state of the art of the manuscript means that we are talking about the contribution on the uniqueness of your manuscript. So it means that when we talk about what is your state of the art means that what is your major contribution and what is your uniqueness in this field, okay, of your manuscript in this field. It is very important. So we always talk about the state of the art when in our presentation. So the whole pictures we mention is the state of the art in research. Okay, needs us to be novel, needs us to be clear, needs to have the contribution, needs us to be uniqueness. All this actually is the elements for research, also the state of the art. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you, Prof. I think it is also similar with the fourth question about the novelty of the paper, right?
Yes, yes. We mentioned the novelties during the first presentation, right? Okay. So that's maybe you can try to read my slides on should be on May 29th. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Is there any question from the participants? If you have questions, so you can also ask directly to this meeting. Is there? No question? No more question? Okay. Okay. Thank you very much, Prof. Rui, for your lecture for this morning. Very interesting course. Okay. As usual, before we end this meeting. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Questions in the chat box from Rahmi and from Rahmi and Anissa. Anissa, Prof.
Rahmi and Anissa.
Chat box. Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh, sorry. I missed two questions.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, from Rahmi. If we write a journal about literature review, what are the tips for choosing journal? And is it possible for literature review to be included in Q2 or even Q1 journal?
The literature review journal is a different story. Yeah. Some journal request that you need to discuss the topics and the content you want to write, you want to emphasize with editor first. Names that if they agree, names you can submit the frameworks to name first. So that's the I have no experience. I cannot say no. I have the very little experience in the journal paper of the literature review. But my understanding is that a lot of the good journals, like you mentioned, the Q1 journal, they all request that you need to discuss with the editor first. Definitely that they will have some other journals that they only publish the review article. In that case, definitely you need to write. But if you would like us to do the literature review, the first things I would like us to suggest is that tries to find the recent 3 to 5 years the journal paper to see what is the hot topics people are doing and whether those material has been reviewed or not. Even those that the same materials, they still have a lot of the review article, but just focus on the fields you want to focus. For example, the material carbon nitride now I'm relatively familiar with. A lot of people tries to use the carbon nitride C3N4 for photo degradations and for energy and some others. But maybe less people talk about the one-dimensional carbon nitride for photoelectrochemical reaction. So that is the case. So we can focus on the case, even though they are the same one, but sorry, not same one, even though they are the similar one, but the morphology is different and their application is different, so that we can try to write a review article. And definitely that they can publish in Q2 and Q1 journal. Okay, but not all. Okay, so that is my suggestion. Okay.
Yeah. So the step is just look for the profile of the journal. Is the journal accepting the review article or only research article? Yeah. So it is not related with the Q1 and Q2. Some Q1 and Q2 journal are accepting the review articles, but some are not. Yeah. So just look to the profile of the journal. Okay. The other question from Anissa Ayu, Prof, what is the difference between the abstract and summary or conclusion?
In journals, we only use the abstract and conclusion. We do not use the summary. Okay, so abstract, some people will believe that abstract and conclusion will be similar. Okay, theoretically, at this moment, they cannot be similar. Like I mentioned, for abstract, you need to include for past objectives and method you use, the main contribution and possible application. And for conclusions, you only need to have your major finding and possible application. You need only to focus on these two parts. And they can be very, very detailed. But the no need just to use the comprehensive ways to write. But for abstract, you need to write the comprehensive methods to write. So that is the difference. And conclusion only tell people that's what is the major contribution you got. Okay, that is the case. And abstract, not just only for contribution, you only still need to mention the niche of your research to this field. That means that's what is the possible applications. Okay, so that is the difference. Okay, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there any question from the participants, please? Mbak Mai Sari, is there any? If I miss the chat again? No?
Already read, Prof. It's already, yeah.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. So yeah.
Thank you
very much. Do I need the sense that the PDF files of my presentation to you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Before we end this meeting, so we will have the photo session as usual. So for the participant, please just open your video on so the
Okay, so that's I
admins
need let's do it this way.
can snap the monitor. Okay, Pak Hakim, are you there?
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, please give the sign.
Okay, this is 2 slides. And open
There are 2
your
slides. Open your video. Give your best smile.
ready?
Yes.
Sorry, any problem? Okay, 1, 2, 3.
Second slide.
Again. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Pak Hakim, and thank you very much once again to Prof. Rui Andong. See you next time in the next courses.
Yes.
And yeah, keep healthy and happy.
Yeah, thank you. You too.
Yeah.
You all too. Yeah. Okay.
See you.
Yeah. See you. Bye bye.
See you. Bye.
Bye bye. Bye bye.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Oke, terima kasih atas kehadiran rekan-rekan mahasiswa dan para partisipan pada pagi hari ini. Dengan berakhirnya kuliah ini, maka sesi ini juga akan berakhir. Saya selaku moderator dan host pada agenda pagi ini memohon maaf apabila ada kesalahan. Sekian, wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Untuk pengumuman pemenang, Mas Hakim, dibacakan.
Oh iya, monggo silakan dari Mbak Mesari kalau ada pengumuman pemenang untuk door prize agenda pagi hari ini, silakan.
Oke, Bu. Ini nama-nama pemenangnya, Bu. Yang mendapatkan door prize.
Oke, yang mendapatkan door prize adalah Mbak Rina Maulina, Mbak Anissa, Dr. Putu, dan Mbak Rahmi. Silahkan menghubungi admin untuk detailnya. Terima kasih, selamat, dan sampai jumpa pada agenda berikut.
Terima kasih banyak ya, Bu.
Yes.
Terima kasih, Bu, atas
Sami-sami.
Terima kasih, teman-teman. Prof. Agus juga datang, Mbak. Bu Mai.
Ya, Prof. Agus tadi dari awal tadi sudah mengikuti.
Iya, betul, Bu. Tadi ada Pak Argo juga tadi hadir. Maaf semuanya. Pamit ya, Bu. Sehat-sehat, Bu. Terima kasih ya, Bu. Assalamualaikum. Makasih Mas Hakim, Mas Aris.
Oke, Bu Mai. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.